say to John Bolton, who are you fooling? I was an anti-war Iraqi back in 2003. I went to the country during the 80s and 90s. I think the media can really big up propaganda about how severe Saddam's dictatorship was. And to Des Brown, I don't think us in the audience as Iraqis have selective memories. I actually think it's your government and the former government which had selective memories where millions were persecuted. You lost Saddam basically in 1991, and he became a pariah, and then you decided to go to war.
John Bolton.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Yeah, let's go back to 1990. Iraq invaded Kuwait, unprovoked, with absolutely no justification for it. And if anything that was conducted wrong in the response to that invasion is that we did not overthrow Saddam Hussein in 1990 or 1991. That would have removed the threat then, and I think made the world an even safer place.
John, my relatives are Sunni, Christian and Shiite. They've been living under Saddam's dictatorship for 30 years. I've lost more relatives in the last 4 years than under 30 years of Saddam. Right. So I don't think you can tell me how dangerous Saddam's dictatorship was.
Well, Saddam was a brutal dictator, armed by the United States. Donald Rumsfeld went there in '83 and said he wanted to work with him. 4 years ago, just before the war, Blair said in the House of Commons, Saddam can stay if he disarms. So there's no doubt he was a brutal dictator. But is it a better place? 500,000 Iraqis have died. There have been 2 million Iraqis left the country. 1.5 million are refugees in the country. 80% of the Iraqis, and as far as you can judge opinion, want the coalition out. 50% or more think they're entitled to defend themselves. And I think the only good news is that the American people, whom I love, defeated Bush in the midterm elections. That was really, really good news.
Something there?
Yes.
You know, I'm sorry Mr. Bent doesn't understand the American Constitution. I suppose this is further proof of why our revolution was a good thing. You know, the question for Americans is what is in our fundamental interest. And the opposition to the war, which is shared broadly within the Republican Party, rests in many respects on the notion that Iraq ought to be responsible for Iraq as well. No Americans, including the President, want to stay in Iraq in the shape we're in now with the size of our force any longer than we have to. America is not an imperial country. We want to turn the government and the responsibility for security back to Iraqis just as soon as we can.
But the American people had a bit of trouble with King George III and got rid of him. We're having a lot of trouble with George II, and we don't want to be dominated in our foreign policy by America.
Liam Fox.
It's a different interest.
Well, good, Mr. Bend. You go right ahead. You go right ahead.
Liam Fox. And then let the ambassador answer, and then I'll go up.
I have to say that the Syrian border with Iraq is the most secure of all Iraqi borders. We have 9,000 soldiers, 500 police stations on the border, and we see nothing on the Iraqi side, no American troops, no Iraqi troops. This cannot become an impenetrable border. It is a 400-kilometer long border, and the Syrian border is absolutely no cause for passage of terrorists. What is happening in Iraq is terrorists trying to hit civilian, innocent people, and legitimate resistance resisting occupation forces. One has to understand that.
Let me come back to the panel. Tony Benn, you'd like to pick up what's been said so far.
I was born about a quarter of a mile from where we're sitting now, and I was here in London during the Blitz. And every night I went down to the shelter, 500 people killed. My brother was killed. My friends were killed. And when the Charter of the UN was read to me, I was a pilot coming home in a troop ship. We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has caused untold suffering to mankind. That was the pledge my generation gave to the younger generation, and you tore it up. And it's a war crime that's been committed in Iraq, because there's no moral difference. There's no moral difference between a stealth bomber and a suicide bomber. Both kill innocent people for political reasons. And that's why in Britain, a majority against, in America, worldwide, there's no support for the United States in this worldwide. And you're a declining empire, as we were, and you'll learn the truth. You were beaten in Vietnam, as you said yourself. That's why you didn't want to serve there. You said you don't want to die in a Southeast Asia rice paddy. And you'll be beaten in Iraq.
All
and
right,
I'm afraid that's the truth.
John.